Good evening, and thanks for tuning in to Canterbury Local News.
Welcome to a special segment where we will be discussing The Clerk's Tale, written by Chaucer. We're your hosts, Andrew and Matthew.
So, The Clerk's Tale, what exactly is that about?
Oh, yes. In the beginning, there's a king and...
King Walter.
King Walter.
The townspeople, they want King Walter to get married so that they'll have a lineage after the king dies.
Of course.
This king's been a bachelor all his life. He doesn't want to get married.
No, of course not. But, of course he does what the people want.
Yeah, exactly.
Because, he's kind of following their every need.
But he tells them,
does what they want.
He does tell them that they need to, respect whatever wife he chooses. He has the freedom to choose who he wants to marry.
Understandable.
And he goes and he marries this girl named Griselda, who's absolutely a dirt poor peasant.
But she's very beautiful, very lovely lady, not gonna lie.
And the thing is, he marries her, and then he puts her through all these tests.
What kind of tests, Matthew?
Well, you see, he, first off, after she has her first kid, he tells her that, hey, the people, they're not cool with this kid,
Probably because the kid is a daughter, and people don't want a daughter.
They don't need a queen, they need a king.
That's right, of course.
So, they want to kill the daughter.
So, does the king takes the daughter, and to test her, he says he is going to kill the daughter.
Right.
But instead, he takes the daughter off, and he
sends her to her aunt.
Her aunt.
Right.
Yeah, that's right.
But the wife doesn't know this. She thinks he killed the daughter.
She thinks he killed the daughter. That's right.
And the same thing happens about 4 years later when she has the son.
That's right.
Says, hey, this kid, this kid isn't from a royal bloodline.
Yes.
People aren't cool with that. They don't want that as a ruler.
That's right.
So
he says he's going to kill the son.
Right.
Instead,
but he sends her off where he sent the daughter with her aunt to grow up in royalty.
That's right.
Right. So, that's basically what the two of the wife's trials. Now, the third thing is the people start complaining about the wife.
Right.
And,
they question her.
They question her. They question her ability to lead, her right to be queen. And so the king tells her that he's going to take a new wife.
And he wants a divorce. Of course.
Right.
But it's all a test.
It's still a test
for her
wife's loyalty to the king, and
of course,
showing her ability as a wife.
Right. And she agrees with her steadfast love both times, just like in the past when she agreed to give her both of her children.
Right. She agrees this time.
She agrees that, with the king.
If it's what he wants,
so be it. Right.
So the king sends her back home to live with her father.
Okay.
And then brings in his new wife, and there's going to be a huge celebration. And he has the wife who has now spent her life in the kingdom and knows all the ins and outs of how you address royalty and how, how highfalutin and how they act. And so he wants her to be in charge of the wedding ceremony.
Right.
And so she agrees, obviously. She still serves her husband, even though they're no longer married in his eyes.
Because she's loyal to him.
Right. And so she goes about and does this, and then they bring a new wife in, and the king reveals that it's her daughter, and the boy who's with her is her son.
That's right.
And they've been away this whole time learning how to be royalty, basically.
Royalty, that's right.
And
he brought them back in secrecy.
In secrecy.
And then...
So he remarries her.
But in the final act, he shows that he actually didn't kill her children, and brings them back. And she sees that it's all been a test, and she pass the test. So
Right, and it proves to not only the king, but also to the townspeople
that she is
that,
pure wife
you know,
material. Absolutely.
that, she's worthy of being the queen, and the children are worthy of being their predecessors.
Royalty.
Or-
Yes, that's right. Absolutely.
Predecessors.
King, future kings.
Yeah, right.
Okay. All right.
So, moving on, let's take a look at the language that Chaucer uses in his tale.
Right. So how does his use of language make the meaning how does it make meaning in the Clerk's tale?
Well, I think one thing that his language does entail, it kind of creates a simpler style that kind of shows, in a way, Griselda, because, she grew up in poverty. She's, up until it's revealed that, her children are alive, she doesn't have very many emotions.
Right.
She's just kind of, yes, I'm serving the king, it's what you will, she doesn't even cry when they take her kids away.
Of course.
To kill them, you think, how are you not, distraught?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it really represents her life, up until all her emotions are released at the end of the tale when she is reunited with her children.
Right. And I think that's the way that Chaucer wanted to use the language in the story to kind of tell Griselda's side.
Absolutely.
In a way.
Absolutely.
All right, well, coming up next, we'll look at the social issues that are addressed in this tale.
All right.
Oh, I see you're having a drink from Cookout.
That's right. I thoroughly enjoy Cookout.
It's bad for you, though.
But it's good for your soul.
Welcome back. Let's take a look at the social issues in this tale.
All right. So what kind of social issues is Chaucer addressing?
Well, I, for one, think that a major issue that he's addressing is the conflict between the social classes in medieval society.
Right.
And this is shown in one way in the problem that the townspeople have with King Walter marrying a poor peasant girl.
Yeah, of course. And another issue that Chaucer addresses is the oppression of women and their obedience to their husbands. This is evident in the power that the king holds over Griselda and her submission to his rule.
Right. And what does this show us about medieval life and values?
Well, I think it definitely shows us how important class was to the medieval people.
Right, and I think it also shows us their view on women as being second-class citizens and having to submit to their husbands.
Of course. How do you think this was similar to today's society?
Well, for one thing, I believe there's definitely still a conflict between social classes, and definitely between the upper class and the middle and lower class.
Yeah, and women are still considered lower than men by many people, and they still receive less pay than male workers.
Right. And now a word from our sponsors.
This broadcast has been brought to you by Forestview Cross Country. Now go run some.
Now getting back to our regularly scheduled program, we'll be talking about the characters in the Clerk's tale.
We've already talked a bit about Griselda, so let's start with her.
Okay.
Chaucer describes her as very lovely and beautiful, and also as honest worker.
Right. Well, let's not forget she's also dirt poor.
That's right, and I think that makes her all the more loyal and patient when dealing with the king.
Now, what about Griselda's father, Janicula? He too is loyal to the king, even after he sends Griselda back in shame.
You're right, he does do that, but the father still cares for his daughter, and all the while he remains loyal to the king.
Right. Speaking of King Walter, also known as the Marquis, what is he like?
Well, Chaucer described him as being very easily swayed by his people.
You're right. He marries for the people, and he puts his wife through all the tests just to prove to the people that she is worthy.
The people are quite demanding, aren't they?
Oh yes, they force the king to marry and want to ensure a lineage.
You're right, and they do set very high expectations of the king and his wife, and not to mention the children.
Yes, the children get sent away at birth as not only a test for the wife, but so they can learn to become royalty.
You're right. And when they do come back, they're very accepting of their mother, who's been absent for their entire childhood, and they continue to rule the kingdom in the way that the people desired.
Absolutely. Well, I think that's most of the characters, and that brings us to another commercial break.
Does glad ever not work the way you expect it to? Does it frustrate you sometimes? It doesn't make you very glad, does it? Don't get glad. Get mad.
Now that we're back, let's talk about our final point, the poetry elements in the Clerk's Tale.
Starting off with the meter, Chaucer uses a style that became known as rhyme royal. This style consists of 5 stresses in a 7-line stanza.
Right, and this rhyme royal, it kind of creates the simple style and helps to show Griselda's lot in life and her emotions like we discussed earlier.
Until, of course, she releases these emotions at the conclusion of the tale.
Right, and speaking of conclusions, this concludes our special segment on the Clerk's Tale. I'm Matthew.
And I'm Andrew.
Thanks for watching and have a nice day.
Okay.